Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this Biggerplate webinar. It's just gone 2 o'clock here in Bogota, Colombia, where I am based, and we're here to talk today about mind mapping with Xmind, part of our regular introductory series of webinars to help people understand the basics of some of the best mind mapping products out there. So my name is Liam Hughes. I'm the founder of Biggerplate.com, and I am today in a slightly strange and dark-looking phone booth in a weird co-working space in Colombia, and I'm going to be presenting through this map today that you can see on the screen, and just going to show you some of the core features and functionality of the Xmind program, and then show you some examples of how many people around the world are using Xmind at work, in their studies, or even at home. So there's a chat box on the side of your panel there, so it's really nice for me to always know where people are joining from today. And of course, if you have any questions throughout the session today, or comments or feedback, please do let me have them. I'm going to switch off my camera in just a moment so it's not too distracting, and we're going to focus on just using the mind map to guide our presentation today. But I'll be checking back in regularly into this questions panel and chat panel to just see if anybody's got any questions, comments, or feedback. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it then, and just make a slight change here, and hopefully all you're seeing now on the screen is a nice bright Xmind mind map. So by means of a brief welcome, as I say, my name is Liam Hughes. I'm the founder of Biggerplate.com. Currently based in Bogota, Colombia for a couple of months. If you want to email me with any comments, questions, or follow-up to this session, please feel free to do so. My email address is there on the screen, and I would love to hear from you. Those of you who are active on LinkedIn, please feel free to reach out to me there as well. I'm very active and visible on LinkedIn, and again, it would be great to connect with you wherever you are in the world. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Biggerplate.com, who we are and what we do, our mission, our purpose is to help people to go further with mind mapping. We do that by providing a huge range of different resources related to mind mapping, including mind mapping templates and examples. Our mind map library is probably what we're most known for. There's thousands of mind map templates and examples created and shared by our members from all over the world. We have software courses, including e-learning courses for Xmind and other software programs. We also run regular events like this one. We also have lots of videos, and we provide training for organizations as well. So our whole focus is on helping people to go further with mind mapping tools and mind mapping software specifically. However, it's very important to realize and to understand that we are software neutral. What I mean by that is we are independent. We're not attached to any one mind mapping software company. We're not attached to Xmind or any others. We don't make any mind mapping software, and we don't sell any mind mapping software. What that means is we are here to give you independent, neutral advice and guidance about the ways to use different mind mapping software tools. Now, if you did want to go maybe and try Xmind, or perhaps buy it, you can actually get a discount with our sorry, I'm talking about the wrong thing there. If you wanted to upgrade to our pro membership at biggerplate.com, you can use this discount code on the screen here, and that's going to give you 25% off our pro membership. So we don't make or sell software, but what we do is provide a huge amount of resources. Some of those resources are only accessible to our pro members. So if you want to get a discount on that pro membership, use that code that you can just see highlighted on the screen right now. And as it says here, good idea to maybe just grab a quick screenshot so you can save that later if you need it. So this webinar today is, as I said, a brief introduction to the world of Xmind. What we're going to cover is a little bit about the Xmind software, why we like it and why lots of other people like it. I'm going to try and talk you through some of the most essential features. I'm not going to cover all of the features because there's a lot there, but I really want to show you the core features that I see most people getting the most value out of. I'm then also going to talk through three sort of different domains of use. One is at work, one is in studying, and one is at home. Now, it's worth saying there are thousands more uses than I'm going to show you today, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of what different people are doing with Xmind in these three different areas. Importantly, what I'm not going to cover today, remember, we don't sell or make Xmind. I'm not going to be talking about the pricing and selling of sales questions for Xmind. We don't sell the software. If you have any questions about pricing or sales, you need to talk to Xmind, the company themselves. And similarly, if you have any technical questions about the software, we don't make or sell Xmind, so we're not the people to try and answer those for you as well. As I said earlier, I welcome your questions and comments as I run through today, and hopefully there'll be a few questions and comments coming in. It's always a bit of a lottery with webinars, whether we've got a very quiet audience or or a very active one, please do use that chat panel that you should hopefully see on your hop-in screen there to leave me any questions, comments, or feedback as we go. I'm just going to do a very quick check on that panel here. Okay, I can't see anything coming in right now, so let's press on. So a little bit about Xmind. I'm not going to give you the company history because it's not my company, but Xmind has been a partner of us rather, since 2011. So we've been working with Xmind really well for well over a decade. They're a fantastic group doing really great stuff with mind mapping software. So we're delighted to have been partners with them for so long. So 3 things that we really love about Xmind, and 3 things that lots of other people really like about Xmind as well. The first thing is you can get started for free. So Xmind is a really perfect product to try for new mind mappers. So it's great for experimentation. So if you're not familiar with mind mapping, not quite sure where it's going to fit with your work or your studying or anything like that yet, it's a really safe, low-risk experiment to download or start using Xmind because you can do it for free. You can really play around with the software, get familiar with it before you have to spend any money. And actually, you don't have to spend any money at all. You can keep the free version running forever, but you might later want to upgrade to access all of the features in Xmind. There's some features that are obviously just behind that upgrade wall. So, but the key thing is it's a really fantastic bit of software to play with, to experiment with for free. So when you start to experiment with Xmind, what you're probably going to love is just how simple it is. It's very easy to start. It's got, as you can see on my screen here, really simple menus. You're not going to get overwhelmed by the number of menu options, and it creates this lovely creative style of map. It can be very colorful, but it can also be very professional looking and really enables your kind of creativity to express itself in the mind mapping software, whilst also enabling you to organize your ideas and your information in this very powerful visual structure. Finally, Xmind is one of the products that really over the last few years has accelerated and improved greatly in terms of providing their product across multiple platforms and devices. So whether you're a Windows, a Mac, or you want to use Xmind on the web, even a Linux product, as well as mobile apps, Xmind has got you covered. So it's one of very few actually mind mapping products that genuinely is covering all of these different platforms and options. So if you're maybe using one or a mix of these, you know that you can transfer and move your Xmind software between maybe your Mac at the office and your Windows computer at home or wherever it might be. So cross-platform functionality is a real plus of the Xmind software, and in particular their recently, or not recent, but relatively new web product as well is really getting better all the time. So that's a little bit about Xmind. So now let's have a look at some of the core features of the product so you understand what you're getting. So as you can see on the screen, this is an Xmind map, and we generally advise people to build and read their maps in a clockwise fashion. So you can see we started here. Imagine you're looking at a clock. We're just moving our way around the clock face until eventually we'll finish around here at conclusion. So let's dive into some of the core features of an Xmind map. I'm going to talk about map building, visual working, and then extra information. So in terms of map building in Xmind, the process of adding topics is very straightforward. So anywhere you are in the map, if you select a topic, so one of these kind of boxes we can call a topic, if you then click the insert or press the insert or tab key on your keyboard, that's going to send out a subtopic, so something that's going to go outwards like so. So we can send topics outwards using the insert key. And as it says here, we can also send topics down using the enter or return key. So topics on the same level, you can enter, return, and you'll see we start to build out this structure. So we're just using a combination of the insert and return keys. We start to build out that sort of tree structure that you're probably familiar with if you've just started to become familiar with mind mapping. So the process of adding topics into your mind maps in Xmind is very straightforward, very simple. It's worth saying you can use these menu items up here to add a subtopic, which is one of the outwards ones, or to add a topic, which is one of the downwards ones. However, I think what most people seem to find is to keep jumping up here to the menu every time you want to add a topic is not very efficient. It's much easier if you can get used to just using those keyboard buttons, the insert or tab key, and then the enter return key. You'll find you're making your maps much faster than continually having to go up to this menu up here, but the option is there if you need it. Now, once you start to build out that tree structure in your mind map, one of the most powerful things about mind mapping software, and perhaps one of the most underrated or underappreciated things, is the ability to move and reorder those topics in the structure so that the structure makes more sense to you. Now we can move single topics just by holding our mouse and just dragging it, and you'll see that Xmind highlights where that topic is going to land just with this sort of blue outline. So if I release the mouse here, you'll see it lands that topic there, still within the tree structure, but now obviously in a different position. We can, of course, just grab it with the mouse and move it back to wherever it is we want it to land. Let's put it back in here for a second. Now we can also move multiple topics in the map, and this is where you start to get real power in moving multiple things at once. So we can drag our mouse here, and you see it's now highlighting 2 topics. Once again, if I click again, hold my mouse down, you'll see I'm now moving both of those topics, and if I release that, it's going to land wherever I've released it. So moving multiple topics around the map, or even individual topics, is a really powerful way to just start to organize your ideas and information. You may put things into the map in the first instance, just using the insert and return keys, and then start to realize that there's perhaps a more logical structure. Maybe this actually belongs here, and these 2 things belong as subtopics of there. So you can really play around with the structure and the ordering of those topics and branches. Now you can also actually move an entire branch. So if you think about these as topics on a branch, we can actually move an entire branch. So we could go right the way up here to this map building branch, and rather than just moving 1 or 2 topics off the end of the branch, we can move the entire branch itself. And it takes all of those subtopics in that tree structure with it. And as you start to build up more complex maps, perhaps around projects or planning, to move or reorder these entire branches and just restructure, move things around so they're in the right order and you get the flow of information that you want, that is a very, very powerful ability to organize ideas and information. So we build out our map, we move and reorder information until we get a tree branch kind of structure that we like. And then importantly, what we also need to be able to do is navigate around our mind map. So with mind mapping software, again, one of the most powerful but sort of underappreciated functionalities is this very simple option to show and hide information. And this is one of the ways that mind mapping software can help you to avoid being overwhelmed by the amount of information that's in front of you. So you see, for example, up here, we've closed these branches, and I can just click this little icon here and it opens up the branch. Similarly, I can open up this branch, but importantly, I can then just hide them. Now, this is a good habit to get into when you're using Xmind, is to hide the information that you're not really working with right now. And that means that what you've got on the screen is just the most relevant information and ideas that you want to focus on. But this idea, the ability to show and hide topics and branches in your mind map, just using these, is a very, very simple way of navigating and making the information more manageable. Now, when your maps start to get quite large, you're going to want to be able to move around the map nice and easily. And there's a couple of ways to do this. You'll notice quite often that I will just do this, what I call a sort of map grab. And I'm just using my right mouse button here to just click on some of the white space in the map and just pull, if you like, the canvas around. So almost like I'm moving a piece of paper around with my hand. So that's primarily the way that I move around my maps. It's a very quick, and you can be quite precise in terms of where you want to go and where you want to focus in. You can also use these sliding bars, I should have said, down here to move left and right, and also on the side to move up and down. Now again, I find my grabbing function, this right mouse click on this one, this is what I find is a little bit more precise and enables me to keep sort of right what I want to see right in the view. And in terms of seeing what you want to see in the view, zooming in and out, again, is a very powerful function of mind mapping software, because it enables us to zoom right in on small details like this, but also zoom right out and understand where we are in the overall scheme of things. When you're using mind mapping software in sort of business settings, for example, this is a great way that you can zoom in on the little tactical details of a project, but also zoom out to get a sense of that whole strategic bigger picture. So zooming in and out of your mind map using the plus control and plus and minus on your keyboard, for example, or as I tend to do, I just use the control and the mouse wheel on my mouse. Or you've also got little zoom options down here that will take you to some quite specific zoom levels. So that's how we can start to build basic mind maps, move and restructure the topics so they're looking like they're in the right places, and then navigate around our mind maps using a very simple combination of show and hiding information, grabbing the mind map in different places to move it around, and then, as I said earlier, those zooming in and out functions. After we've built our mind map in Xmind, we might then start to leverage some of the visual functionality within the software. Now, the visual tools is really about making that information personal and meaningful to yourself. It's not just about adding images for the sake of it. It's about adding images and visual signals into your mind map that add some clarity or extra information to the map itself. So avoid adding color or images just because you think you're supposed to. Only add those things in if you think they help to make the presentation or the information more personal to you, more impactful, more meaningful, or clearer. There are lots of formatting options within Xmind. We can format individual topics, or we can format entire branches. Most of your formatting options you can find by just popping open this formatting menu up here, and you'll see on the right here, we've got all sorts of options here on the topic that I'm currently sat on. We can change the shape, we can change the border color, we can change the fill color even to a different color. We can really change a huge amount. And this is what I was saying earlier, Xmind gives you some really creative opportunities within the software to change a huge number of things within within every topic on the mind map, from text fonts and colors to the structure of the topic itself. Now, again, you've got to be careful of going a bit too crazy. Obviously, that doesn't look particularly nice, but if your blue topic and red outline of a topic means something meaningful, then we've added some clarity. We can also add formatting to entire branches. So you see just a little bit further down in this menu, we've got branch formatting here. And then if I change the color of the branch at this level, you'll see that change feeds down into all of the topics on that branch. So again, think about that tree structure. What we've done here is we've added a change at the branch level that then has fed down into all of the subtopics beyond that. So again, we can just change that back if we like to get back to how we were before. So we can change the topics or branches. Another thing that people like to use in mind mapping software is images and markers. Now, the two things there are slightly different. So let's just close this formatting menu for a second. So images are probably what you expect. They are things that sort of make the mind map kind of look nice. So you'll notice in my main topics, these kind of first primary topics here, I like to add a little bit of imagery, only really here to just add a little bit of visual interest to the mind map. So what I've done there is just use the stickers functionality within Xmind. So if you can go into the insert menu and scroll down here to stickers, what it'll do is pop open a really nice selection of ready-made images, if you like, for your mind maps, so that you can then just get a little bit creative and insert those into any topics in the map. Once you've done that, you can actually do a little bit of editing as well of the image. You can make it larger, you can make it smaller, and you can decide where it sort of sits within that topic for whatever kind of appearance you wish. You can also, within Xmind, add local images, so perhaps an image from your own computer. So this can be really useful perhaps if you're at school and you're creating a subject summary mind map about a particular topic you're studying. You might want to pull in some images related to that subject. If it's a business setting, you might want to pull in some images of maybe some graphs or graphics to illustrate your point. And again, we can do that coming up here to the insert option and then say local image. Now on my desktop, I've got just a little image here, so we can just click that and you'll see that's just pulled from my local computer and is now inside the mind map. So really nice options there to add images for some visual interest into your mind map. Another option we can use is markers, and these are slightly different because these are actually used to sort of signal almost like a legend, a code within your mind map. So you'll see here we've added some little markers here, and these are from within the Xmind software. And you might use markers to identify perhaps a priority. So for example, we can say, come up here to the marker menu and mark something as a priority 1. We can also perhaps show markers for completion. So we might add a task into our mind map and say, well, I'm perhaps 50% complete. We might also add maybe another flag into our maps that's about maybe risk. So we might use this red flag. So this is where you can really start to think about how are you going to use these icons to give yourself clarity when you look at this mind map or when you share this mind map with other people. So priority markers, completion markers, or sort of particular one-off icons could be really useful in the mind map. It's worth saying that when you add a completion icon, you can then also just tick it along further and go right the way through until it's complete. So this is the completion icon is a really nice way of also being able to kind of manage and monitor your tasks and sort of prioritization of those tasks and completion of those tasks. And it's worth saying, as you can see from this topic here, you can have multiple markers on any topic. So you might mark an action as a priority 1. So perhaps there's an action of complete webinar. for me. And we might say that's a priority 1 because it's happening today. And maybe we're going to put a completion marker on there and say that it's perhaps 30% of the way through. So you can have multiple markers on any given topic, and it's just a really good way of helping certain information in your mind map stand out and become more clear and more visual. Other things we can do in our mind maps is add relationships into the map. Now, this is a nice way of showing a connection between information in the map, but which may be in different areas of the mind map. So if, for example, we wanted to make a visible connection between this idea here of cross-platform and something down here, these are in different areas of the mind map. They've been branched out differently because they belong in these different areas for different reasons, but maybe we want to show a very clear connection between them, even though they exist in different parts of the tree structure. So this is where we can use this relationship feature here to basically just draw a very simple arrow line that goes from one to the other. Now, if we click that, we can do some formatting, we can move it around so it looks and feels the way we want. We can also add a label on here. Maybe we want to say connection, or we want to show that there's a relationship between these two. And it just gives us a way to kind of visually make very clear that there's some connection between these two items. Again, we can do a lot of formatting by clicking on that shape and then just playing around with the formatting within it. You'll see we can make it go both ways. We can play with the line color. We could say it's a green line if it's maybe a positive relationship, or we might say maybe there's a red line if it's possibly something that's going to be bad. Now, importantly, I would recommend being quite careful with using those lines, because I'm sure you can see that if you add those lines too often in your mind map, it's going to become pretty hard to kind of see and keep that visual clarity in the mind map if you've got those lines crisscrossing all over the place. So relationship lines rather are very, very useful for adding that kind of visual aspect to your mind maps, but just be careful of perhaps overusing them or using them in different ways, and also maybe just leverage that formatting area to maybe just make sure it's not too dominant in the mind map. You see, you can maybe make the lines visible, but maybe less dominant depending on what you want to do. So play around with those relationship lines and just see what the limit is for you. But be careful of inserting too many into the map, otherwise they can become a bit counterproductive. Finally, another way we can visually make certain information in our mind maps stand out in Xmind is using boundaries. And this is something we can use to wrap around entire sections of the mind map for whatever reason. Now, again, it might be because you want to highlight that a particular area is problematic or very important or going well. So what we can do is select the highest level that we want. So let's say we want to put a boundary around all of this stuff around visual. Let's select the topic at the highest level, so here, and then click this boundary option up here. So you see that has instantly just put this green boundary around all of this information. And if I start to collapse down, you'll see the boundary adapts with it. So it's a nice way of really sort of making certain information in the map sort of group and batch together. Now, once again, you might choose to format that slightly differently. So if you select the boundary, and then once again, pop open that very simple formatting menu. You see Xmind does this great job of just showing you the menu that's most relevant. So if we've selected the boundary, here are your boundary formatting options. So again, this is where I might use something like perhaps if an area of a project is perhaps being a little bit problematic, I might create a red boundary around it and say, this is the problem area. I might use it in combination with some of those icons or some of those other things to really make it stand out. You'll see we've also got options in the shaping of the boundary itself. We can maybe make it a little bit less bulky. We can make it a little bit more playful. We can do all sorts of different things in here with Xmind to just make that information stand out and appear a little bit differently to the other information in the mind map structure. So plenty of visual options there in the Xmind software. Easy to apply, easy to format, and easy if you want to remove. So we've built a good mind map. We've added some visual interest to it. We've formatted. We've got a style, a branding, and a color scheme that we like. We're using markers and icons. You're already going to start to get huge value out of that Xmind software. But there's a couple of extra features that are really worth knowing about when you get started. And that is where you can start to add real depth and detail into your mind maps without creating huge amounts of clutter. So there are three features to just be aware of, amongst many others, but these are the three I think are the most important. So the first is hyperlinks. Now, hyperlinks enable you to jump to sort of almost bookmark or save a link to any websites or other files. So we can insert that into our mind map just using that insert option. Again, you'll see really great, simple, straightforward options from Xmind. So we can say, let's insert a link to a web page. It's going to pop open a dialog here. Let's just say we're going to link to biggerplate.com, for example. And you'll see Xmind just searches, it finds a little bit of information. And if I say insert, it's just going to save a little icon there. And if I click that, it's going to pop open the biggerplate.com website, which you probably won't be able to see because of how I've got the screen sharing set up at the moment. So this is a really great way, perhaps if you're doing research, maybe if in education you're doing research for an exam, perhaps in business if you're doing research into your market or your competitors, you might want to save lots of little web pages and websites into a mind map to help you make sure you've got the relevant references at hand when you need them. Now, importantly, you don't have to save the sort of the headline domain. You could save to very, very specific pages on these websites. So maybe you find an article buried in the archives of a website, you can pull that URL into the Xmind map and save it as you need. It's a great way to avoid that issue that I have, or used to have really, of finding in my web browser lots of things that I've bookmarked that I really don't remember why I bookmarked them or really what they're about. So hyperlinks is a great way of pulling extra information into your mind map, giving yourself these little visual signposts and enabling you to get quickly where you want to get when you need to. Another great and very powerful functionality within mind mapping software is the note function. And this allows you to add extra depth without cluttering up the mind map. So what we advise people to try and do when you're building mind maps, and you can see here in this example, is generally speaking, we're just using a few keywords in every topic. We're trying to avoid big, long sentences and big chunks of text. However, sometimes you need that text, you need that extra detail and depth. And this is where the notes functionality in Xmind can be really helpful. So once again, if we jump up to the insert option here and click note, it's going to pop open this little sort of written document, and we can add here lots of extra information without cluttering up the surface of our mind map. So you see what we've done here is add a big sentence, but what we can do is click away from the note, and you'll see it's now just hidden in that little icon. Xmind says to us, we've got some extra information beneath the surface here. So think about it almost like a second layer beneath what you can see. And if I click the note, it's just going to pop that open. Now, you can put as much information into this note as you want, and you can really build up a vast sort of store of text and information here. But again, your mind map is still going to be nice and easy to manage, just focused on keywords. So here's where I will sometimes take copy and paste chunks of text from a website, or maybe sometimes I'll copy and paste text from an email I've received if I want to pull it into a project plan in a mind map, and I'll just pull that here into the notes in my Xmind map. That way I know I've got the depth and the detail, but I don't get overwhelmed by all of that text on the screen. I'm still just dealing with a really nice, clean structure focused on keywords. So the combination of notes and hyperlinks is a very powerful way of pulling extra information into your mind maps without getting overwhelmed by that information. Another thing you can do is perhaps you've got other documents that are particularly relevant for your mind map. Maybe it's a presentation or an Excel spreadsheet that goes with your business proposal mind map. What you can also do is actually attach those other documents into your Xmind map. And that means if you were to send that Xmind map to someone, it would take the attachments with it, just like attaching something to an email. So again, I won't really need to demonstrate this. It's relatively self-explanatory. We can say insert, we can say attachment, and then we just find whether the document it is we're going to use. Here's another Xmind map. So we can insert that into the document, and here you go, we've got an attachment. I can even click that, and it's going to say, do you want to save and open this? But really what that means is that other document is now going to travel with this Xmind map if ever I share this Xmind map with others. So it's a really great way of pulling those extra resources into any Xmind map and making sure you've got all of the information you need readily at hand. So that's a very quick run through the what we like about Xmind and some of the core features and functionality. Now, before I come over here to the work, study, and home, I just need to do a quick change to the settings of screen sharing, so you're going to be able to see a little bit more as I jump between these different maps. If anybody's got any questions or comments or feedback, I would, of course, love to hear them, but at the moment, it looks like a relatively quiet audience on the line today. So hopefully you're all seeing everything and hearing everything okay. So just need to do a quick screen share. So let's change to share the whole screen and then jump back here to our map. So we're going to just have a look at sort of 3 examples each for work, study, and home, just to illustrate how all of those core features are being used in different contexts. Now, many of the maps I'm going to share with you here are maps that have been created and shared by other people on biggerplate.com. Remember, that's what we're most known for, is our mind map library, a free library of mind map templates and examples created and shared by people all over the world, including lots of Xmind maps. So in a work context, or maybe a business context, people often say, but work could also be in government, in charity, and not-for-profit. So we tend to think of work rather than just business. There's a couple of different areas, well, there's many different areas, but I've just chosen 3 here as an example. So we could use our mind maps and Xmind for a sort of creative brainstorms. So again, we use a template, or you can use templates, something like the 6 thinking hats, which is a very well established sort of brainstorming and creative thinking process from Edward de Bono many years ago, but it fits very neatly into a mind map. And here's an example of that framework being fed into an Xmind template. And again, this will be available at biggerplate.com. So in a mind map like this, what we're really trying to do is sort of build on the skeleton of information that this person has created and provided. So they've used the 6 hats framework, and then what they've done here is they've just added a little question or set of prompts. So when you're looking at any problem or opportunity, you might say, what's the information that we have? And that's where you just use those insert and return keys to start building out whatever it is you've got about that situation. As you build out the information you have, you might, for example, say, here's a competitor website that we know is maybe going to be relevant for that. That's when you might start to use something like that link function, and perhaps link to a website. Something, again, we'll just use biggerplate.com as an example. So we might start to brainstorm around the objective information we have about our particular problem, and we might use the branch structure to build out the map, and then start to use the the hyperlinks to really pull together key information. If we wanted, we can also add some notes onto that and say the problem with this competitor is that, and off we go. So we can add almost some commentary using the notes. So again, you see now Xmind has collapsed that into both a hyperlink and a note. So we've got a lot of information building here in our mind map. And of course, we could use things like those markers to say this is perhaps a real problem area that we want to make sure we're nice and clear on in our map. So in a very simple example here, we've got a template that helps us to brainstorm, and then we can start to use that functionality we talked about also already in Xmind to highlight key information once we've built up that map. We could, for example, have one of those relationship lines that for some reason connects these 2 topics as the map builds out. So different sort of uses of mind mapping for creative thinking, but mind mapping doesn't do the brainstorming for you, but it's a very good way of supporting a well-designed brainstorm process. So lots of content on Biggerplate about brainstorming with mind maps, so do go and take a look over there as well. So perhaps once you've done your brainstorm, you come up with some project ideas or some initiatives that you're going to make happen to solve the problems or take advantage of the opportunity. So mind mapping software is very good for project planning. It avoids these big, scary, heavy tools like Microsoft Project, and actually it's a really great way of managing and planning projects if you're a non-professional project manager like most of us. So for those of us who don't need all those heavyweight tools and techniques, mind mapping software, I think, is sort of the project planning tool for the rest of us. I use it obviously extensively. So project plan mind map might look something like this. Again, we've got those icons, we've got the key structure of the mind map, and what we're just going to do is build out around some of these key topics. And you'll see down here in the schedule, we've gone right the way down into sort of phases and planning, and then you could start to do those prioritizations. You could start to do sort of task 1, task 2, and that's where you might start to use, again, some of those markers. So we might say, let's mark our priority 1s, and let's then turn each of those tasks into one of these completable icons. So we might say task 1 If we click on that, it's complete. So you'll see what we can start to do is, as the map builds out, what you actually have here is not only the plan, but can also be used for the management. You can start to track and monitor your tasks and your projects as they move through to completion. You also use things like the risk branch up here to build out your risks around any of the particular areas of the issue. Now, importantly, remember what I said right at the beginning, the ability to show and hide information. You probably don't need to see the entire risk section all of the time, but you might hide all of that and just leave those main two sort of risks just as a reminder for your team as they're moving through these different areas of the key areas. So we can get right down using that zooming functionality right down into the depths and the detail here. And then we can also zoom right out and see where are we in that overall project plan. So project planning is a very popular topic on Biggerplate. Lots of templates and examples about using Xmind for project planning and management. So well worth taking a look if that's something you're required to do in your work. And finally, linked with sort of the creative brainstorming, but maybe slightly more focused on the sort of strategic, is things like a pestle analysis, SWOT analysis. Again, processes that lend themselves very nicely to mind mapping. And Xmind, again, is going to make it really easy for you to brainstorm and gather and organize your thoughts. So, for example, in this one, we're thinking about the pestle analysis framework, where you have to think about the political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental things happening in relation to your organization. So, for example, I'm in Colombia at the moment, but I'm from the UK. So if we were brainstorming around political, we'd be saying there's some big issues with government instability at the moment. Been a particularly great job over there, it seems. Economic, again, as a Brit, you'd be saying the currency issues. Our currency has slid horribly over the last couple of months. And so that's a good example of where you might say, well, actually a big part of that currency issue is the recent government decisions and things like that. So we can start to use these very simple prompts to build out very comprehensive mind maps of different situations. And you'll see a lot of templates and examples on Biggerplate that are around this strategic planning and thinking processes like pestle analysis and others. Oops, sorry, wrong screen there. So that's a couple of examples for work, but really what you should have a look at is biggerplate.com and go into the business section. You'll see huge volumes of mind maps around that. And what about for studying? Well, there's a few different areas of studying, but I tend to think about studying in terms of note-taking, subject summaries, written assignments. And if you get all those three right, then your exam preparation is taken care of. So if you like, there's a sort of fourth one under here that maybe is sort of exam prep. Worth saying. So what we could do is look at note-taking as an example. So here's a mind map that somebody on Biggerplate created and shared. Again, it's not from our team. This is one of our members has created this. They created a map, really kind of comprehensive map about the Roman Empire, where they were watching a video and taking notes at the same time. So you can see here this mind map has gotten quite big, and you'll notice that this person here is using some of those icons maybe to identify things that are particularly important. You'll see a relationship line here to connect this something about a boat down to something around military technology. So it's a really good example of where somebody has just listened or watched a video, and as the video has been unfolding, they've just been capturing any ideas they can in this mind map as it goes. Now, there's a lot of information on the screen right now, so what I would probably just do is click into the middle here. What have I done? Sorry, there we go, fold all sub-branches, just to reduce it down a little bit bigger there, a little bit more easy. And that just means we can sort of unfold in our own time. So what we want to try and do is avoid being overwhelmed by the amount of information on the page, and just then by using that central topic and that fold sub-branches option that I couldn't see, it just collapses everything down so we can see that from this day 2 video, this person has come up with these main headings: content, unity, Caesar, pride. Now you'll see pride hasn't got any subtopics in it. So if I was training with this person or coaching them for mind mapping, I'd probably be saying pride needs to belong somewhere, because if you finished your video and there's no topics coming off pride, you either should delete pride or figure out where does it fit. And probably maybe it fits under something like Caesar. Maybe it was about pride. And then you see here there's this option about troops. So maybe we start to move and reorganize the information to just make a little bit more sense as we need to. But all of this started from somebody just watching a video and taking their notes. Once you've taken good notes, what you can start to do is build subject summaries. Now, this is a different subject, but it's an example where somebody has taken the next step, which is to try and really pull together a tidy visual mind map about a particular topic. So this is one of England's most famous kings, King Henry VIII. He's most famous because he is the king that had 6 wives, which is pretty extraordinary. So here you can see in the mind map what we've got is somebody who's captured a little bit of information about the character of King Henry. You'll see they've inserted one of those local images, maybe from Wikipedia or something, into the middle of their mind map, and they're just capturing the key information that they want. So key dates is up here, and then you've got some information about the 6 wives. You've got the markers here to tell us the order of the wives. And you can see they started, but they haven't quite gone through the way yet to say what happens to each one of these wives. And it's a slightly grisly tale of divorce and beheadings, unfortunately. But you can see how we can build out extra information about each one of these characters in the same mind map. Here you can see that hyperlink functionality has been used. So if we click that hyperlink, it's going to take us, here we go, to the wives of Henry VIII. So they've saved a little Wikipedia article here about the different wives. And we could, for example, click to the Anne Boleyn. We might take this whole chunk of text here, say copy that, come back to our Henry VIII mind map, look at Anne Boleyn, and let's use that notes functionality here and just paste that in there like that. So you'll see very quickly we might build on something like the subject, the note-taking map. So that's a sort of sprawling map of notes taken in real time. And then what we should try to do really is get to something a little bit tidier, maybe make it a little bit more visually easier to understand. And we can start to use those notes and hyperlink features to pull in the extra information that we need to give us that clarity. So you'll see here a couple more hyperlinks possibly to other Wikipedia articles about the key figures in the reign of Henry VIII. So a really nice example here of going perhaps from the note-taking into the subject summary. So when you come to sit your exam about Henry VIII, you've got here a really good summary of information. Now, again, depending on what age level you are in your studying, your map could be as simple as this, or it could be much more in-depth and complex, depending on what age grade of studying you're doing. So finally, I talked about written assignments. So this is where mind mapping software is sometimes not really recognized as a very powerful tool for helping with planning of written assignments. So one of the issues I was always in trouble with at school was I would just write rather than actually plan what I was going to write. So if you use a mind map to plan and organize your ideas and information, it's going to give you a much better structure for your written assignment. And what's more, if you use the mind map to do the planning, you can then actually use the export to Word feature within Xmind. So it's going to take all of that really organized information that you do in the mind map and put that into a Word document that's going to be much easier for you to edit and finish. So as an example, let's say we've taken our previous Henry VIII mind map and we've been set a written assignment to write about the key events of his life, his reign. So here's where we might create a mind map plan rather, for that assignment. So we're going to maybe build on our subject summary map. So we might build on, remember this one that we've got here, we've got a sort of summary of everything that happened. So we then go to our written assignment map. We say, well, let's firstly do the brief introduction of when he was born and ruled and died. And you see what we can start to do here is write into the notes some of our kind of sentences. So in the map, we're just using keywords. But then what we can do is take these notes. So instead of having this big topic here, what we could do is say, we're going to say the topic is lavish lifestyle and personality, perhaps. And what we're going to do is put all of that information into a note instead. So using this, what we can actually start to do is structure the flow of our written assignment. So remember I said at the beginning, we're going to sort of go clockwise around the mind map. So this is where you can start to move around what you need in what order. So for example, we might say, well, he marries Anne, there's a Catholic church, but then you realize actually the logical order of things is he was married to Catherine, he was having an affair with Anne, He wanted to marry Anne, but the Church of England at that time, which was the Catholic Church, wouldn't allow divorce. So he then initiated the break from the Catholic Church so that he could marry Anne. Then we're going to write our conclusion. So the key thing is what we're doing is organizing the order, the chronology of our written assignment around this mind map structure like I showed you earlier. So once you've got that structure and all your topic notes with all your text and your sentences in, what you can do is say export that to a Word document. And what Xmind does now is move clockwise around the map, and it's going to just push all of that information, whatever you've captured, into a Word document. So if I go to my desktop, hopefully we'll see a Word document appear. There we go. So this is a obviously very quickly done export from that Xmind map, but here you go. You can see what we've got is that structure. Here's our central topic, and then you'll see we had introduction, and then remember we put the key information into notes. So depending on the nature of your written assignment, it might be that you want to take out these titles and have it written more like paragraphs, or you might keep that sort of bullet point style. But the important thing is all of this structure now, remember, he started with a marriage to Catherine, then he was having an affair with Anne, so he had to break from the Catholic Church so he could marry Anne, and then we'll have our conclusion. But all of this structure and all of this information has come through and was organized in the mind map. Now, it's much easier to organize and play around and restructure that information in the mind map format than it is in this Word document format. So imagine I'd started life and I'd just been writing about this. I then go into that horrible process of trying to move things up and down Word documents and try and and already I'm lost and confused. Now, if you want to reorder and restructure things in your written assignments in a mind map, remember, we're just moving entire branches, and it doesn't really matter. It's easy for us to keep track of that whole process in this mind map structure because we can see how it all fits together all the way around. The written assignments there is a great example of where you can use mind mapping in your studies. And if you can start with note-taking, progress to subject summaries, and then your written assignments are going to be so much easier. All of that combines very neatly into, for example, passing your exams. Not sure what's happened there. It's gone dark. Text to something visible. There we go. Slightly little feature in Xmind there is these little summary branches, little summary topics. So we've got all of these three things, and what I was saying was if you get all those three right, you're going to be passing your exams with no problems at all. So finally, let's look at mind mapping and Xmind in a home context. A very quick look at some home examples. Not too much explanation needed, but things like planning out some family vacations, family events. Here's a nice example of someone using Xmind to plan a family vacation. You can see in just a second when that loads, you've got all sorts of little bits and detail from the travel plan, the travel taxis and airports and ticket, airlines, trains, information about the destination. You've got hyperlinks here. We've got all sorts of things that we can build on this template to help us plan the perfect family holiday. And of course, if you don't need some of these branches, you just remove them. That's the beauty of the mind mapping software. Or if you think that maybe the checklist belongs over here, you just move and adapt. So remember that ability to just move things around and make the map work for whatever you need. That's the power of mind mapping. Other things that sort of overlap with life and career and work is sort of career planning and life planning, if you like. And you'll see a lot of templates on Biggerplate about life planning, career planning. And another great use of mind mapping is exactly that. So think about your current role, whether that's at home or at work, and just think, what am I enjoying? What are the good things? What are the bad things? What am I passionate about? So using a really simple but nicely comprehensive mind map template like this, we can start to build out not only sort of thoughts around big questions, but very clear actions and tasks that we want to take. We could also be brainstorming and researching for where's the future ideal company I want to work for. We might save those hyperlinks, use those notes to pull in all the information here that we need and start to really map out our ideal job. In my ideal job, what do I do on a daily basis? What am I doing regularly and what am I never doing in my ideal job? A really nice way of just thinking about and planning so that when you maybe go for those job interviews, you've got a clear idea of what it is you want to get out of that particular role. So career planning, job interview preparation, really nice example. And finally, personal organization, a real personal topic of mine, is using mind maps to really take control of all of the different areas that you have to keep control of. So things don't always divide so neatly into home, work, and study. Actually, they quite often overlap and contradict each other. So what I often do, what I always do and often suggest others to do, is build a personal organizer mind map where you can just keep track of the key information on the home front. So maybe you've got a topic up here, which is your home, and you've got a branch here for family things, and you've got reminders of your holiday, and you've maybe used that hyperlink to click through and keep really easily to hand your vacation planning map, you see. So we start to actually connect maps up together. Maybe you've got birthdays coming up, so maybe you've got a wedding coming up, so you need to buy a gift, but before you do that, maybe you need to do the RSVP. That's where you start to use things like those icons, the markers. So we say, have we done these tasks then? So remembering, keeping track for yourself of, did I reply to David's wedding invitation? Yes, I did. What's the next task? Buy a gift. You might then save a hyperlink to something on Amazon or another website, or maybe the wedding registry. So using a mind map as your sort of central control room for all of the different things, from your personal tasks, maybe you're in a marketing role in your business, so you've got some activity that you've got to plan there. Maybe you've got particular projects in progress over here. So again, we've got those icons, we've got the branch structure, we've got lots of different information all in one place here. And it means that if somebody calls me up, maybe my partner calls me up and says, have you bought the present for David's wedding? I can say, no, but I've got the link, I'll get right on it. Did you reply? Yes, I did. Okay, distraction over. Back to where I was with my work, which was on this tech transition project. So having everything in one place, the key headlines and links to key information, attachments, all in one place, is a really nice way of helping yourself stay organized, including, by the way, little things that I like to use, like little reminders to myself. What were the goals I'm aiming for this week or this month or this year? What are the things I really need to get going on this week? So personal organizers are a very popular topic on Biggerplate, productivity, getting things done, and Xmind is a great tool for implementing some of those strategies in a very adaptable, powerful way. And that pretty much wraps us up. I'm just about on time, so I'm going to just pause and come around to this conclusion. Just pop these open so we can remind ourselves what we've covered so far. So by way of conclusion, really the only thing to do is, if you haven't already, join Biggerplate. It is free to join, and that's going to give you access to a huge number of Xmind maps, templates and examples, including the ones I've shown you today. And of course, if you feel so inclined, you can share your own mind maps with our global community. If you want, you can upgrade to Biggerplate Pro. That's normally costs $29 a year and gives you access to a vast amount of resources to help you go further with Xmind, including courses, webinars, and even discounts on Xmind software. So you can probably pretty much save the price of our Pro membership just with a discount on Xmind. So the code, if you want to upgrade to Biggerplate Pro, is on the screen right there. That code expires in a few days' time, so get it while it's hot. As I suggested earlier, you might want to take that screenshot and make sure you take advantage of that offer before it ends on 30th of November. So that's it from me. I'm going to come back just one last time to our hop-in page and check where we're up to. I've lost my page now. That's very helpful. Here we go. There we go. So we're hopefully now just seeing the right screen. Sorry about that. And just checking for any questions, comments, or feedback. I cannot see any that have come through so far. I can see lots of people on the call, but no questions or comments coming in. So hopefully that means everything has been self-evident and clear up until now. In the absence of any questions, comments, or feedback, then I will say thank you very, very much for joining me today. I hope this has been a useful introduction to Xmind. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, or follow-up feedback for me about this section or about Biggerplate in general, please feel free to reach out to me at the email address or on LinkedIn that I shared at the beginning of this session. But that's all for now. So I wish you all a very pleasant remainder of your day and best of luck with your Xmind mind mapping.